We're going to learn a lot about the Sun Devils football team with spring ball around the corner, but the one thing we know on offense is they have the best quarterback receiver duo in the nation.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks to all of you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. If you're ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed, head over to turbotax.com today and get matched with your expert. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a minute since we talked some ASU football, and that is what we are here to talk about today, because what an interesting offseason that we have ahead of us. A lot of changes, but a lot of similarities from last year's team. A lot of guys are back, but there's new contributors for this team. Offensively is where we're going to take a look first. What's new on offense? What do we know about the offense? What are we looking to learn on the offense? And what are we most excited to see on offense? All of that is coming up today. Here's the one thing that we know more than anything else when it comes to this football team, and that's that ASU has a special connection with their number one receiver and their number one quarterback. Sam Leavitt, first year for Arizona State as the starting quarterback, tears it up. Absolutely terrific, spectacular. One of the best freshman seasons ASU has ever had, whether that's a true freshman or a redshirt freshman. Football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, whatever. Sam Leavitt had one of the greatest freshman years, one of the greatest debuts with the Sun Devils athletic department that we have ever seen. It was phenomenal. Jordyn Tyson, who misses all of the 2023 season due to injury, is 100% healthy for 2024. Him and Leavitt become best friends. I mean, they're sharing a brain together out there, and they are tearing it up. Tyson goes over 1,100 yards, the first 1,000-yard receiver since Brandon Ayuk did it in 2019. Tyson was unstoppable at times last year, and his ability to stretch the field and take the top off the defense, top tier. But he's also just a really good route runner. He's someone that can attack all three levels of the field. He's got good hands. He's got good patience, all the stuff that you're looking for. And that's what Sam Leavitt was looking for. And lo and behold, that's what Sam Leavitt was given, was a true number one target, someone that he could entrust to go to with the vast majority of his targets and put all the attention on number 0. And it didn't matter, because number 0 was going to find a way to get open no matter what was going on. It was a special season for those two. They're back. The thing that I'm curious about, we all know that they had that immediate chemistry with each other. And ASU was not the team that a lot of people were watching at the start of the year. It took until the end of the season before some people were paying attention. Desmond Howard. But by the end of the season, unfortunately, Jordyn Tyson had an unfortunate injury. He missed the playoffs. He missed the postseason. He did not play against Iowa State. He did not play against Texas in the Peach Bowl. When everyone was looking at this team the most, they didn't have their number one receiver. So how many people are going to go into next year and realize that Leavitt to Tyson is one of the best duos in the country for a quarterback to receiver combo, but what I would call the best in the country? I don't know, but we're going to find out, and a lot of other people are going to find out too. Here's what else we know. The offensive line pretty much figured out. You are returning 4 of 5 starters. From left to right, here we go. Left tackle, Josh Atkins. Left guard, Ben Coleman. Unsure on center. Right guard, Kyle Scott. Right tackle, Max Ioniker. You've got 4 of your 5 spots figured out. Now, unfortunately, center is not just going to be a difficult position to replace, but you are replacing an all-conference player in Leif Fautanu. That's not going to be easy, man. And it'll be one of the more intriguing battles that we see during camp, and one that we'll talk about a little later on the show as well. But the one thing that we know is ASU pretty much has their offensive line figured out. And there's some people that are nervous about that, I suppose. I can tell you that I was critical of the offensive line last year. But by the end of the year, I started to regret it. And I started looking at it and I'm like, they're playing a lot better than they're given credit for. Now, of course, against Texas, wasn't their best performance. You know what? That was a lot of NFL talent on that defensive line they were going up against. It's difficult to prepare for defensive lines that had the amount of superstar power that the Longhorns did. Yeah, it was a rough day. But look at the rest of the season, and they had highs and lows, but by the end of the year, they were figuring it out. Now they're returning 4 or 5 starters, and that chemistry is going to be there. And understanding how each guy works is going to be there for the team, for the offensive line, for the unit, to protect Sam Leavitt, to create running lanes for Kanye Udo and Kyson Brown and everybody else. So you have to love that. And again, you got to give them their flowers for the way that they performed down the stretch. And that continuity is just a really big thing for this group, man. Like ASU just has not had continuity along the offensive line in the last several years, and now they have that continuity. They should be able to go from a slightly above average unit to a great unit. If everything goes right, this is an offensive line that should be able to take a really, really good step forward and become one of the better offensive lines that is in the Big 12 conference, which they're going to need if they want to repeat. One last thing that I want to mention here before we take a look at the things that we don't know and we have questions about. The last thing we know is that as far as the top of the depth chart for your skill positions, they got to figure it out. Wide receiver 1, Jordyn Tyson. He is entering the season as one of the best receivers in the country, not just in Tempe for Arizona State, not just in the Big 12, one of the best receivers in the country. There are a lot of good receivers going in the next season. You've obviously got Jeremiah Smith with Ohio State and Ryan Williams from Alabama, and there's some freshmen that are coming in, and there's plenty of other guys who are being developed as well. But Jordyn Tyson is among one of the most talented receivers that will be going back to college for 2025. He's also in an offense that is perfect to get the most out of his talent and get insane production out of him. He had 1,100 yards last year, and he missed the playoff game and the Big 12 championship game. Over 1,100 yards. I think he could have easily topped 1,300. Who knows how many more he could have gotten for the team. But terrific season. He's back. Tight end number 1, Chamon Metayer. There was no competition last year at the tight end position. That will be changing, and that will be something that we pay attention to. More coming up later on the show. But we know who the number 1 guy is. It's Metayer. He was terrific last year. Yeah, there was a handful of drops, and they were definitely frustrating, but he was more often than not a good safety valve in the middle of the field and someone who like deceptively was able to stretch the field out a little bit. Like he had some big run after catch plays and found the end zone plenty of times. He had 5 scores last year. Very easily could have had 6, but he had some alligator arms in the end zone against BYU, I believe it was. We know what he is, and we're very happy with what we got. And then running back 1. It could be Kyson Brown out the gate. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm here for it. I am a Kyson Brown fan. I have been since he was a freshman. I will continue to be. But more than likely, it's Kanye Udo as your running back 1 right out the gate. Hard to argue against. Over 1,100 yards last year for Army. Their number 2 rusher had less than 200 carries. He was a beast. Double-digit touchdowns. So as far as we're concerned, you look at the top of the depth chart for your 3 skill positions. You have an established wide receiver 1, one of the best in the country. You have an established tight end 1. And you have an established running back 1. Running back 1A, running back 1B, if you would. They've got it figured out at the top of the depth chart. And the rest of the depth chart going to be really interesting. And that's where we're going to turn a lot of our attention to coming up on this next part of the podcast as we take a look at the things that we're wondering, things that we have questions about going into spring ball. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let me talk to you about our friends over at Monarch Money. If you're ever wondering if your bank account is low. Like, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, if you would, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all your investments, and spending all in one place so you can just manage your money and start building your wealth. When I started using Monarch, I wasn't sure. But then I realized that I was spending a lot of money on some delivery meals. It's convenient, but man, does it add up. And instead of using multiple apps to figure this out, I just used Monarch to be able to check on my finances, track my spending, and make long-term goals for myself. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever too. And you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half of your first year off. I also want to talk to you about our friends over at Factor Meals. If you're looking to optimize your nutrition this year, then Factor makes it the best place to go. They are chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are never frozen, fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. Someone that's lazy like me, that's perfect. With 40 options across 8 different dietary preferences, every week you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether that's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, even keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love that Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. For me, like I said, I'm lazy. I don't like doing that stuff. But I order my Protein Plus meals, and I have them good to go for the week. Stress-free. Someone like me that's lazy, already done for me. They're packed with flavor, and they keep me full throughout the day. The convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Go to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 off and use the code lockedoncollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's lockedoncollege50 off. That's your promo code lockedoncollege50 off at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 off to get 50% off and free shipping on your first box. Wherever you get your shows, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. You'll get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. Here's what we're wondering about this Sun Devils football program as we prepare for spring ball, which it feels really close, but like really far away at the same time. March 26th, by the way, is when things kick off. So a little less than 2 weeks. There are some questions I have. ASU is returning a lot. Their offense, you've got your number one quarterback, your number one tight end, your number one receiver, 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen, right? You're wondering who running back 1 is because Cam Skattebo is gone. You are wondering who your starting center is because you have no idea who is going to replace a all-conference caliber player like Leif Fautanu. But then you've got the wide receiver position, and that I have no idea what you do. And that's where we start is who is stepping up opposite Jordyn Tyson. You have lost Xavier Guillory, Melcon Stovall, Troy O'Mary, and Jake Smith. They are all gone, either transferred or ran out of eligibility. That's a tough blow. Returning guys, you have Malik McLean, who looked good in the playoff. 2 catches. 2 catches the whole season. 1 against Iowa State, 1 of them against Texas. That's not a lot to go off of. Zachariah Sample redshirted his freshman year. Derek Eusebio, 1 catch. That is not a lot of proven stuff here. So, what does ASU do? They attack in the offseason. They hit the transfer portal hard. Jalen Moss transfers in from Fresno State. Noble Johnson transfers in from Clemson. And Jaren Hamilton transfers in from Alabama. Their freshman class is bringing in 3 kids, Corey Butler Jr., Uriah Nellums, and Chance Abels. A lot of new competition. And again, like, you do have Zachariah Sample and Derek Eusebio, who you don't know anything about. So for all we know, like Zachariah Sample could be this superstar player, but until we have any kind of confirmation, we're kind of sitting there and we're like, who's wide receiver 2? Who's wide receiver 3? Who's playing in the slot? Like, there's a lot of question marks we have at the receiver position right now. And ASU was a run-heavy team last year, but they still got a lot of work done through the air. Now, over 1,100 yards came from Jordyn Tyson, and your second leading receiver was 4th on the team behind Cam Skattebo and Chamon Metayer. That's something. I seriously doubt that ASU will be able to replicate the success they had last year with only one receiver producing at a high level. They are going to need someone to step up. Now, if you're asking for my way too early favorite, I like Jalen Moss. I think that what Moss has should be able to complement Jordyn Tyson very well, because I like Tyson to be all over the field. I like Jalen Moss to be my guy that's a good safety valve, the check down option. Look for him to convert my third downs. I like him best there. Jaren Hamilton, I'm excited to see him as a potential deep threat. Corey Butler Jr., very interesting guy, and for no other reason than he comes from Centennial High School out in Corona, California. ASU has a lot of success getting talents out of Centennial High School in Corona. Do yourself a favor and look up some of the guys that came from that program. Let's see what ends up happening. Number 2 thing. What's the depth chart at tight end end up looking like? We know what Chamon Metayer is. Who's the number 2 guy? Very interesting. And similar to receiver, we've got almost nothing to go off of. Cameron Harpole, guy who I think makes the most sense to be the number 2 tight end as a redshirt senior, did not have production last year. Jaden Fortier, someone that we hype up on the show all the time. Redshirt freshman, he missed all last year with injury. AJ Ia is coming in as a true freshman. Kamari Anderson is transferring in from Kentucky. But if you look at those 4 players, there is not much to go off of. We do not know what we have in these 4 guys. And similar to what we said about the receivers, right? Who knows? Maybe AJ Ia is going to outplay Metayer and be tight end 1 by the end of the year. But until we have something to go off of, we can't just assume that. So I do have questions at the tight end spot, and I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, like, what does this end up looking like? Are we going to have this insane depth, or is it going to be similar to last year where Metayer is pretty much the lone component of the tight end position? And it's not that Metayer can't do it, because he played well last year, but I see this depth chart and it's like, I want more out of it. I don't want it to be a one-man show with Chamon Metayer. I would love him to repeat his success, but I do want to see Fortier get on the field. I do want to see what Kamari Anderson has in store for us. I want to see what we can get out of this tight end room. Last question I have, last thing I'm wondering. No, it is not about the running back spot. That comes later on the show. It's with the offensive line. How does everything else shake out? Particularly, who's competing for center? I don't have one guy that I look at right now and I go, that's him. That's our starting center. Going to be interesting. The names that I've seen are Keona Pete. By the way, his brother, Koa Pete, 5-star at Perry High School for basketball. If you want to come play at Arizona State, you're more than welcome, man. I'm sure your brother, Keona, would be all over it. He is one of the options. Makua Poole, I think I said that right. Also an option. And I'm throwing Sean Na'a's name out there. I just want him on the field. Redshirt sophomore for the team. He got thrown into the fire as a freshman and forced to play left tackle when Isaiah Glass quit on the team in the middle of the season. He is someone that has been talked up very highly by this coaching staff. They like him a lot. And I want to see Sean Na'a find his way onto the field in one place or another. Those are the 3 guys I'm really interested in. But here's a conversation worth having. Ben Coleman, starting left guard, all-conference player. Does he move inside? The reason why I ask that is he's someone that knows the interior of the line. And it's not like a move to guard the center is like some slam dunk. It's still a transition and still not this easy move, right? But if someone along the interior were to make the move inside the center, I like Ben Coleman to do that the best. And then you start looking at some of the other guys who could play guard, and like Sean Na, one of the first guys that comes to mind for me to potentially take over that spot. Terrell Kim, who was a redshirt freshman last year, could be starting there as well. Could we see Jalen Clem find his way onto the field as he's like a swing tackle guard right now? Maybe he's able to get out there. Joey Sua is still an option. Champ Westbrooks is still an option. There are more than a handful of guys for the guard position that we could roll with as starters compared to centers. Center is a big fat question mark for this team right now. And I won't say that like it's going to doom your season, but it's a much bigger question than I think people are realizing. That to me is one of those pivotal questions that we need solved. Not so much by the end of spring, but like before the season starts, I need to be confident in who the starting center is. Here's everything that we're going to be watching, whether we want to learn something or we want to have fun. Coming up next is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's time to talk to you about our friends over at Intuit TurboTax Taxes. It was waiting, wondering, worrying if you were going to get any more money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, all while they get you real-time updates on their progress, and you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every possible deduction for you, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only available in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Thanks again for making Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day, and a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Here are the things that I will be paying attention to while I am at spring ball. Not so much to learn anything. I will be paying attention to learn some stuff, but I'll tell you what, you got to treat yourself every once in a while. You got to find something that you want to see and just sit there and enjoy it, especially with college football, because it's a long off season. And I know that I need to soak this stuff in before we go through the dog days of summer. Let's start with the most obvious thing I'm watching. Number one, it's Leavitt and Tyson. We did not get it in the postseason. We didn't get it against Iowa State, against Texas. So we haven't seen it since November. So all of December, all of January, all of February, and now about half of March. So 3.5 months of not seeing Jordyn Tyson on the field. That's too long. That's too long. His highlight reel on YouTube is not good enough for me. And I'll tell you what, I've given it more than its handshake and fair share amount of views. Tried to combine the two. He's a beast. I want him back on the field. Now, the question is he going to be ready to go? I don't know. I have not talked to Jordyn. I am not his doctor. I am not part of the medical staff. I am not his coach. I don't know if he's going to be ready to go. Until we find out something definitive, I am going to be under the assumption that he is going to play. That's just the way that I roll on Locked On Sun Devils. We don't predict injuries on the show, and we don't assume injuries. They are a part of the game. They happen. I don't predict injuries. That's just not a thing for me. So the injury-prone label, that's a whole debate. We'll get to that another time. I'm assuming he's good to go. If he is good to go, how's it going to look? Are we going to see the same old JT, or is he going to be slowed down a little bit? Are we going to see him like full go in practices, or is he going to be one of the guys that is like a non-contact and limited participant, stuff like that? That'll be interesting. But if he's healthy, if he's good to go, yeah, give me those 7-on-7s, give me the 11-on-11s, and just let me watch Leavitt throw it to Tyson. Let me see number 10 to the number 0. Oh, that sounds so great. I miss that so much. So much. Second thing I'm going to be paying attention to, the running back splits. I mentioned this earlier. This was not in my what we're wondering category. And the reason why is I don't think we are worried about the running back position. Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm not worried. There are a lot of people worried about how you replace Cam Skattebo. What I have said on the show before, and I will continue to say many a times, similar to Moneyball, you can't replace Cam Skattebo, the player, but you can replace him in the aggregate. You can replace his production. You do not replace the people's running back. That's just impossible. He's one of the best football players that has come through this program ever, certainly within the last 10 years. So there's no replacing him. So instead, what you need is to find guys who can replicate his production. So, yeah, no Skattebo. But Kyson Brown is back. Raleek Brown is back. Jason Brown is back. And Kanye Udo is coming to this program. That's more than enough bodies. And I feel good with the bodies that are there. Now, one of the things I will be interested in is who is like, quote unquote, the top of the depth chart, who's running back one. Here's a bold prediction for you, just right out of the way. I think Kyson Brown will be running back one to start the year or not start the year, start spring ball, excuse me. I think it's going to end up being Kyson Brown. Now, don't get me wrong, if it's Kanye Udo, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh my God, what a surprise. I didn't see that coming. Yes, totally makes sense that it would be Kanye Udo. But for now, I am making the bold prediction here that Kyson Brown will get the first shot. How about that? The first shot at running back one snaps. Something else I'm interested in. What's the passing down snaps look like? That's where I think Raleek Brown is going to come into play. We all know that he is a special talent who hasn't been able to stay healthy, but we also know that he is such a terrific and prolific receiver that if and when he's able to get back onto the field, he's probably going to be the preferred passing threat option for this team. Jason Brown was a redshirt freshman last year. We'll talk about him more in just a second. How is he going to fit in? We'll see. Last thing I want to talk about, and this is two parts, like 1A, 1B, or 3A, 3B, whatever. It's the new kids on the block and the emergence of the youth. In other words, guys we didn't see last year. Let's talk about the new kids on the block. These are our transfers. 5 transfers I am paying the most attention to. And no, I did not include any offensive linemen because I don't think any of the transfer offensive linemen will be seeing a starting role at this point in time. So I'll be watching Kanye Udo, obviously. Jalen Moss, the guy I said would be my number 2 receiver at the moment. Noble Johnson, the transfer from Clemson. He was the first receiver to commit from the transfer portal for Arizona State. He was the first commit out of the transfer portal. Jaren Hamilton, stupid fast. He might be your deep threat now. And then Kamari Wilson, the tight end. And I almost didn't have Wilson on here because tight end is just so weird. But that's why he's on here. His tight end is so weird. It's like, this could shake out any way. We sit here and we think we know everything about Chamon Metayer, but Metayer could get beat out. We don't know what is existing in this tight end position. We know there's a lot of talent, and that's about it. We could have a superstar here, or it could just be a fine position. I don't think it will be a bad position by any means. Just don't know what to expect. And then the emergence of youth. Let me get a first look view of these redshirt freshmen. Jaden Fortier, Jason Brown, Zachariah Sample. Those 3 could end up being massive building blocks for the future of this program. You may have your number 1 running back, your number 1 tight end, and your number 1 receiver with those 3. Jaden Fortier, Jason Brown, Zachariah Sample. I am paying a lot of attention to those 3. And bottom line is I think that they're just going to find the field this year. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to keep Jason Brown off of the field. I think Jaden Fortier was your second best tight end last year. Until further notice, I'm going to have the same belief for this year. And then Zachariah Sample, the opportunity is there. And I think that at worst, he can find his way onto the field for special teams. And then as far as the freshmen go, there's not really too many freshmen offensively that I'm going to be looking at that I expect to find big roles. So it's really just AJ Ia and Corey Butler. It's about where it starts and ends for me. I just think that so much of this year's success and production is going to be through the head and shoulders of the veterans that are returning. Most of the guys that are back from last year. And then we'll see a handful of younger guys get a chance, those redshirt sophomores or true juniors, whatever. I think they are going to see a lot of opportunity. And then the transfers that are coming in as well. I think we see a lot of them. I don't have high expectations for this freshman class, not because they're bad, but because I think ASU is in a spot where they can develop them similar to what they did last year. That is everything I'm looking forward to, everything I'm paying attention to, and everything that I know. What are you guys looking forward to hearing the most about during spring ball? What do you want to pay attention to? What do you want to learn? And what's getting the most attention from you, whether you're curious or whether you're just excited for highlights? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at Richie Bradshaw36. The podcast is there at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. You'll get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for tuning in to make us your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. I hope you guys appreciated our pivot back to football. Don't worry, I will be keeping you up to date on the hardwood as more and more is coming out for rumors with Koa Pete, who we mentioned earlier. Maybe he's going to be a Sun Devil sooner rather than later. I will let you guys know. We'll be back again tomorrow to take a look at the defensive side of the ball. Everything we know, everything that we're curious about, and everything that we're going to be watching, whether it's for highlights or it's trying to figure some stuff out. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. And until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked on Sun Devils.